Hey, welcome back.
Hello,
Hello.
everyone.
Well, good morning, good evening, afternoon or evening.
Well,
I
afternoon
got a little
over
bit of
Afternoon.
here.
time.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's still afternoon. Yeah, good
Great
morning
thing
to you
about
guys.
time, really quick. I did read a quick blurb that the United States may finally move to daylight savings time permanently. I hope.
How many times have you seen that? And not just
Yeah,
for
come
Year
US,
on,
for the
after year
EU as
after
well,
year, it seems
like
like
for
it got
every
baked
year.
decades.
into a. Yeah, I read an article. It's been baked into an energy bill, so it's highly likely this time to make it through the Congress. So that would be awesome. And then I
Yeah,
won't have to
because
think so
it's
hard about are you evening or afternoon still.
yeah,
Time
but
difference.
it costs more money, right? Than actually it ever saved it, or it probably never saved any money to begin with.
Yeah, I never understood the practice, to be honest with you. I just baffled, but
And it's
I'm
just
happy if it
crazy.
comes to an
Yeah.
end. How about Hungary?
Well, every day, every year, it's there's a big debate, at least twice, when
Twice a
when
year.
we're switching,
Yeah.
that it should go away, and it was an EU directive, I think, to get rid of it, but I think they just backpedal. But it's strange because I think not the entire EU switches, or is it? I think
It
not
was it
everyone
was on an
switches.
E it was on EU level, and then they agreed that it needs to be seized, right? But at the end of the
Yeah,
day, they couldn't agree whether it should be the
which
winter
is
or the
summer
summer,
or winter?
and
Yeah,
there was a debate about that. And then, but I think each country can make their own decisions.
Isn't that
yeah.
funny? Isn't it funny that's universal that all governments are so incompetent they can't decide stop daylight savings time or keep using daylight savings time?
Yeah, yeah.
And if you
It's
stop, which
amazing.
one to use?
They
Which
they
one?
want they
Standard
all
time?
agree to that it costs more money than it would ever save.
But
They just can't decide whether it's going to be, because I mean the point would be for Europe is to stick in one time zone, right? Which is funny because Portugal and Ireland and the UK is on a different time zone anyways, and to the east Romania and Bulgaria also on a different time zone, and Greece. So
So the time zone itself, Levy, I think it's because the time zones are gonna remain. It's just the summer
yeah,
or
but I
winter.
mean, if we decide that we are staying in winter and
They need to
Romania
stay in the
stays in
winters.
summer, then we are going to be merged into the same time zone. And what if another country, one country away, decides that they're also going to be in winter, so they will be on the same clock as Romania, Hungary, but not Austria, because Austria will be one ahead, and then
Yeah,
Germany, and then
it's gonna be a
it's going
mess.
to be a
yeah,
mess.
that's why I've
So
never
it's
understood the reason behind it, let alone the reason to keep it. It doesn't make any sense. But you look at India, and geographically, I perceive India to be much wider than all of Europe, and India sits in one time zone. But why they chose to go the half hour mark instead of on top of the hour, I don't know.
It
No,
was, you know why they use those half an hours? It was the stock market reasoning. Because if you are ahead, then you can open the stock market or something, then they can start business earlier. And I learned that only because I didn't understand in Australia why they have like the what's this Southern Australia is half an hour, so it's in eight and a half an hour difference, and the rest of the country is 1 hour, 2 hours, so
that's
they are
interesting.
on the dot. Except Southern Australia, which Adelaide, they wanted the stock market to be opened earlier than in Darwin or whatever, which is on the same meridian, and up in Asia as well. So they wanted it to be earlier than everyone else in the same geographic meridian. So it's
See,
weird how they
all
It
changed
these
it.
makes
all these
sense.
goofy reasons. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's
Well,
just, I mean, yeah,
the long story short, from my perspective, I would welcome staying on daylight savings time permanently. Reason is daylight stays with us longer into the
longer.
evening, and I'd rather have the daylight in the evening rather than first thing in the morning. So
Yeah, and it's early. I mean, the sun comes up much faster usually than you would wake up. So
yeah, it's starting to get light outside here in the summer months for me, and probably for you as well. Around 5 a.m., 5 to 6 a.m., it's getting light. So the day is going to be long enough in the summer that it stays light until late evening, 9 to
for
10 p.m.
for us, you see, Hungary is on the eastern side of this time zone, and so we have very early
Sunrise.
sunrise.
Yeah.
So it's like 4 o'clock is full sun. It's already. So when I wake up around 4:30, it's already bright. I mean, it's not just coming up, because it's already light. I mean, everything is bright already, even though the sun isn't over the
Makes
horizon
sense.
yet.
Yeah, no,
So
I get that.
it doesn't make sense. And in the winter, at 5 o'clock, it's already dark, pitch dark.
Yeah,
So
that's the awful
that's
part,
just
but it's the same here as well. It starts to go
Yeah.
down so fast, and then you have, it's at like you said, at 5 p.m. you think that it's already 9 p.m. and you want to go to bed, right? But come on, we still have like 4 hours minimum to stay awake. It's so depressing.
Yeah.
and we are all on 45 degrees as well, so we are getting more sunlight. We are pretty north,
Yeah,
comparing.
that is the other difference as well. Is it latitude or longitude that goes horizontally?
Whatever.
Yeah, whatever that one.
Yeah.
You're a step in the
One
ladder
or the
higher.
other.
So in
Yeah.
the summer, yeah, you get the longer daylight, number of hours of daylight. So that's fantastic for you.
Yeah,
But
in Ireland, for instance, they have in
almost
the
never gets
midsummer,
dark.
it's 11
Yeah,
o'clock. You still have sun because they are so much northern. I mean, it's not that much northern if you look at the map, but they are
it's north
northern.
enough. Yeah,
Yeah, it's north enough to have the light.
Yeah, I remember that. Living in Amsterdam, I was like, wow, it's still daylight after 10 p.m. That was new, I'm like, wow.
It was the same for me in Denmark when I was there, and I was surprised that at 11 p.m. it's still full sunshine.
Yeah.
And I'm like, what's going on?
But the
Yeah.
flip side of that is it's also pitch black at 9 a.m. still.
Yeah, exactly.
And then the sun disappears again at 4 p.m. So yeah, good
Yep.
times. Well, hopefully we're all in a state where I can just predictively say, Levy, you're 7 hours ahead of me or 8 hours ahead of me. I kind of can tell afternoon to evening.
Either that, but it's in the late afternoon, early evening.
Good deal. That was a great sidetrack. You're welcome. So anything interesting you saw this week that you thought would be worth talking about?
Yeah, I saw, and I sent you those videos about the Rory Sutherland. That you might find it interesting because he was talking about this. How about cost cutting doesn't really make sense. Just a sec. Sorry about that. So cost cutting doesn't really make sense if you want to be more productive, or it's not really a way out. You can't really cut your cost your way out of problems. I think that's the way of putting it, because
that's what our old
that's,
adage was: you can't cut your way to profitability.
Yeah, and that's what we find universally true for most of the companies, which is frightening, right? That most of the CEOs or the people in charge, or supposedly in charge, are really just coming up with the same idea all over again, and doing the same mistakes in a perpetual motion. So just doesn't have any original ideas what to do with the situation. And here comes AI as well. Our problems with the AI is replacing people, which isn't just to make sense at all, because it just cannot. It's not there for that. I mean, it can replace a couple of people, but it's not a magic wand. It's not going to.
And when I think Rory pretty much says is Rory Sutherland. Was it his podcast or is it somebody's podcast?
It's somebody else's podcast that I sent.
Okay.
Yeah.
He basically, what you're saying is, he basically said that there's cost reduction is not a strategy because it just focuses on the short-term efficiencies, and there's no consideration given for what are you looking to do or achieve long-term. And we experienced that, we lived that daily in our past working experience together. And there's so many things that come to mind from that, from what he talked about, like the conflicts of mindset. And then Judah, correct me if I'm wrong, but didn't we have an official goal of have a growth mindset? How we would grow, but how can you have a growth mindset if all your focus is on how many people can I cut from our labor force today that's going to allow me to become profitable? You get that destruction of value over creation of value. And long term, I don't know how you succeed long term if your short term focus is to eliminate everybody.
And it takes time to build up a company's human resources, right? I mean, it just this is typically something that you can ruin overnight, and then it's like a reputation. It takes years to build and seconds to ruin. So
It's the same. Yeah, it's like trust as well, right? But it's not just. You don't just need to build up the people element of the company. You need to be able to retain, and that's what most of the companies are failing because they want to cut their way to profitability. But we've seen it so many times in our lives and past lives as well, right? That it's only working till a certain degree. At some point, you hit the point where there is nobody else to do the job that was supposed to be done for the customer, who is going to go and satisfy the needs of the customer and deliver what was written in the contract, basically. If you send everybody away, and we've seen that levy going many years back, and that's the example that I typically use is how can you, I understand service desk, that's probably the cheapest labor, right?
And the easiest to replace with automation.
But back then that we didn't have, right? We are talking about somewhere at the early 2008, 9, whatever it was. And the best example that I always keep on using in these cases, you have a customer who wants a Greek speaker on the service desk. You only have one in the company out of 300,000 people. One person on the service desk speaking Greek, yet that person got laid off. How do you support a customer?
Yeah.
If the one person who can do that is being laid off because that person's name showed up on an Excel without thinking about it. And we've been in that situation ourselves as well lately.
And Levy, you said something that actually brought the thought back to the forefront from some of our previous discussions. So when we were looking at automation being the foundational elements of what we could do, what we could gain efficiencies from or through, but not eliminate people necessarily, just realign them with other work that's more valuable for a human to complete. A UiPath was one of those tools that we could have tried, and Service Desk would try to use that, etc. We recounted some of the challenges we faced trying to go through today's version of automation where they're using agentic AI. So rather than doing a UiPath RPA native approach, they're using basically AI agents. And the cost of AI agents is substantial when you have a customer who engages in a context window that starts to grow. So now you've replaced a $20,000 a year employee with a $5,000 for this chat because this customer won't shut up AI solution. Which is the better, where's your value add? Which is the better choice? Keep that $20,000 a year entry-level person doing the service desk or help desk, or have this massive investment in agentic AI that's going to cost through tokens, you're going to run up just exponentially greater cost over time. And I think that's what
the customer relationship.
Yeah, right. And I think that's what we're learning more about today is the replacement of people with AI. Just the feasibility just shouldn't be there from I don't have to be an AI expert to understand this is not a like-for-like exchange. And at some point, an AI agent may cost far more than the human would have ever cost me. Plus, the AI agent does not have that capability to make decisions or contact somebody else who knows knowledge in a way that allows them to provide a service outcome that makes the customer happy. So it's kind of back and forth here. What's my best path forward, and what are the actions I can take or should take? And when Rory looks at that, that's the long-term thought. If you're cutting the people to save money today, but you're replacing them with AI, you've not accounted for how much that AI is going to cost you 4 months down the road, a year down the road. There are countless stories like Uber. I mentioned to you guys, Uber blew through its AI budget in 4 months. Their annual AI budget, they blew through in 4 months. So was the human value that you lost? And Judith, to your point, you get a unique skill set, somebody who speaks Greek, or you've got the intellectual capital. Levy, you would have been a subject matter expert for so many things for our customers. Did that intellectual capital leave with you, and there was no value add long term? On an Excel spreadsheet for today, we saved X number of dollars because Levy's now gone. Over the next 12 months, we're losing 10, 20 times what we saved because we didn't account for what Levy.
Yeah, but that's the correlation that's not being made.
Connecting the dot. Yeah,
saying the same thing. They are not connecting the dots because they are just looking at the Excel and the current state.
Yeah.
And then how to survive today and not what it's going to cost us in future. So that's not the right way to look at it. And again,
Yeah.
that can be done like we've seen it in recent posts, right? For one of the big companies, 30,000 people or how many thousand people were being laid off. And there was something circulating online that the decision was made by AI, who is going to get impacted. Obviously, the conditions, somebody needed to provide the conditions if it's true, based on what to decide that. And even somebody said that the email, the layoff email was even written by AI as well. But AI cannot tell you the real value of that person because AI doesn't know XYZ.
Yep. And I think Rory Sutherland in this podcast, what he referred to it as was the destruction of value. And correct me if I'm wrong, Levy, I think he was looking at an example was because of he's in sales, advertising.
Advertising,
He was looking at procurement. So people in procurement were making decisions that saved money, but they were never held accountable for the destructive outcomes that their subsequent destructive outcomes that they introduced down the road. And I mean, you guys are describing the destruction of value to a T compared to, what Roy was presenting. It was a very, very compelling podcast to listen to. It's long, but there's a lot of information in there that applies outside of marketing or his field of expertise to what we did. And I thought that's great correlations.
And I think what also I think he also talked about it, or I'm not sure if it was him, but what I find very strange is that using AI is great for so many things, but not for having original ideas. So original ideas are usually or more often than not, I think, are coming from I wanted to solve something that I failed with, but then I figured that okay, I can use this to something else, right? So these mistakes are not going to happen with AI. It's just definitely not going to happen. So AI won't figure that okay, I messed up this result that I've been prompted for, and then okay, but I now I realize that I could have advise this thing to another prompt. So it's not going to happen. But you as a human can realize that okay, I was making a mistake, but then okay, what this sounds like that other problem that I was facing 6 months ago. So let's just revisit that one that was bugging me for a while, and then. Let's try this approach for that issue. So this is not going to happen with AI, and this is not going to happen with brand new people either. I mean, interns and people with basic knowledge only. So you need the experienced people, and probably it's because we are those people in the in that bracket, and that's why we are afraid so much and advocating so much. Against losing people. But I find that really appalling that they just taking people and shoving them out the door because we have AI now, so we don't need anyone who has the knowledge. And I don't think that they ever hired anyone or in any right-minded HR wouldn't hire someone because they know word by word all the syntax for a code or a language that they can write a code on paper. What's that knowledge for? It just doesn't make sense.
Yeah,
Right?
you hit the nail on the head when it comes to this whole recruiting topic. So many people are looking for. Remember, we've been in that situation as well so many times, and people were coming and showing us, hey, I have this certification. But when you put the person, you hire the person because that certification was required, and he was or she was the only one you hire, right? But you put the person in front of a laptop and doesn't know what to do.
No,
And that's one thing. And the other part of it is the human element again, since if we are talking about humans and how it impacts many recruiters, is at least I'm seeing on LinkedIn nowadays, coming to the realization that it's more what I kept on saying as well, Troy, you also, and I'm sure Levi you agree with that too, but when we were hiring managers, we were like, I'd rather hire somebody with the right soft skills, communication, attitude, aptitude, business acumen, so on and so forth, right? Than somebody with the technical skills, because the technical skills can be taught. These soft skills are way more difficult to be taught, and if you have somebody who is not on that level where he or she has to be from the soft skills perspective, not going to be able to succeed. So we are just setting people up for failure if we are really purely hiring for technical skills. Not saying that it's not needed, But like you pointed out, Levi, AI and automation can solve that part of the problem, more or less. But you need the human above it and with it. Like how many times, Levi, we discussed back in the days when there was an issue, we didn't know what to find, what to do, and we reached out to each other, and then we put our heads together, took all that years of experience with all the issues that we had, right? Let it be technical and anything else, and then just pull the bits and pieces from out of our own brains and just merge them together to be one big idea how to get through the problem that we had. But you needed to have that interaction, the human interaction.
So I'm going to oversimplify this example, but you remember we had cloud native team that was not part of our organization, and we had the core infrastructure team that was our organization. So people who did Windows, Linux, SQL, storage, any of those core infrastructure components that have been around for years, that was our domain. Then we bring in these cloud native folks, and they are all the paper certs. I learned this, and I took a test that shows I'm smart. And we put them together. The cloud native folks could not solve a problem anywhere in cloud because they didn't actually understand infrastructure principles. So even though it's cloud, doesn't mean it's so different from a Windows server that you have a unique skills that only you have. No, the foundational skills are still going to come back to almost the same thing that Windows server admin had to have, that Linux server admin had to have. But the cloud native folks never obtained that experience, didn't have that knowledge, and couldn't fix or solve a simple problem. As simple as an example, change the oil in your car. There are simple steps to do that process. My daughter can change the oil in her car, and she's not a mechanic, but she understands what has to happen. What do you do first, second, third? These folks we had on the cloud native side they didn't even think that way. They couldn't solve problems. So we merged the two together.
Yeah.
The troubleshooting, they had no idea of how to
And
effectively
experience.
troubleshoot. Now they understood that you could ask them about, can you explain to me the networking principles? They could tell you those things, but they may not be able to explain to you what an OSI model is, for example, from the physical layer to the presentation layer and everything in between, 7 layers, what happens at each. No, they couldn't explain it or tell you. That's why they couldn't solve or fix a problem. So there's a lot of back and forth, and it has a lot of applicability to the whole thing about hiring. 6 years ago, Judith, we looked at the cost of hiring being $250,000 for a skilled engineer. Why would you turn around and lay that person off 6 months later? You just spent $250,000 to hire this person. Why would you lay them off, right? Same thing, right? And then you've let go the only person that you had in your team that could actually do the work. All the paper warriors can't do it.
Yep. Let's not go that far. Here's me. Same situation. Same situation, but going back to the troubleshooting that you were talking about, I was thinking about it the other day as well, that AI will be able to do some sort of troubleshooting if you give the right prompts and what you're looking for, right, what to be fixed. But again, going back to what we just said, there might be a small element that is not built in, is not prompted for, because you need that one person who had that experience previously with a similar situation or technical issues or something, that little spark in the head of the individual.
If it's not documented, it won't be able to close the gap, right? I mean, that's the problem.
Yeah, you have to start with your data. Your data has to be clean and precise, and you train the language model or whatever you're training.
Yeah, but there are so many components that I don't believe. Don't get me wrong, I'm not against AI, but I don't think that you are able to, or we are ever going to get to the point where it's going to be 100%, because again, the knowledge that we have in our heads, the human capital as well that we have, right? You cannot build it in.
Yeah, the financials don't work for me, right? You'll never ever achieve human level artificial intelligence, if you will. AGI just will not happen because it's cost prohibitive to get there, and it doesn't guarantee you will have the three of us having a discussion about a single topic will come up with a better solution, a better answer every time today than any form of agentic AI or
and it could be that we're going to be sitting on a call for 30 minutes and the AI is going to give you an answer in 10 seconds. But again, if that one element is missing or multiple, then it's a garbage answer.
It's going to be a generic answer. Probably it's going to be good enough, but it won't be any original. Yeah. But you see, I mean, IT, and not just IT, but the high-tech industries is in continuous transition. If you think about it, there are no big milestones as such as it was in the industrial revolution or anywhere back in the days when, okay, now this technology hit peak, so it's like it's plateaued a bit. Okay, it's continuously improving, but it's still the same technology, and so we have 50 years of using the same technology until there's something new coming in and it's going to revolutionize again. So in IT, we have that every 5 years or every I don't know, every other year there's something revolutionary comes in, and you just simply cannot adapt fast enough or efficiently enough, because it's just simply these companies are there to make money. So you cannot just rebuild your company all over again in infrastructure level, right? I mean, with AI, they think that they can get rid of the old stuff, but it's not going to go away, because that's the money makers. You have to use the money makers.
Yeah.
Otherwise, you just a high tech company with great ideas and no actual solutions.
Yeah. Do you want to be cutting edge, bleeding edge, or do you want to be just far enough behind to stay current
Profitable.
and profitable?
Profitable.
Right. Right. You gotta weather the hype cycle. And I don't know how long this hype cycle for AI goes, because so much money is being invested on the back end to build massive data
It's
centers.
still on. That's the point.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's still on.
that's what funny is, that it's already it's already
3 years
overdue,
easy.
right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yep.
it should have died by now, because it's obvious not working. So it's probably just because people shoved in so much money and they just want to keep up the hype. So yeah, as we said, fake it till
Yeah.
you make it, and then probably
But
it's going to hit some sweet spot or something.
But can you ever make it is the problem. I haven't been able to reconcile that piece. If you've spent $10 billion on the back end for your product or solutions that you're pushing for AI, how do you generate enough revenue to pay that back, let alone start making money on it?
With the current offering, it's not going to happen. I mean, if you think about it, for the average user, it's a glorified Google search, right? But if
And then
if
an
they tell
annoying
you
one at
that,
times.
yeah, and sometimes it lies
Yeah.
blatantly, no issues,
It doesn't
and
necessarily lie. It's just telling you what it kind of thinks it
think
knows,
you
right?
want to hear, yeah.
Right.
But the thing is that if they would say that, okay, this will cost you $1,000 a month, you would say,
You would stop using it.
F
Yeah.
off. I can
Yeah.
Google
Yeah.
it for
No, thank you.
myself.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
thank you.
I mean, it's just okay, 5 more seconds Googling it, and then I got probably the same results. It's not going to put it together, but let's just, go back and try to understand what's written there without somebody spoon-feed it to me. Maybe
other
it
thing
would
is-
be better for everyone.
The other thing is there are too many entrepreneurs nowadays trying to make, like you said, Levi, as well, money out of it. Back in the day when Google and internet came up, right? There were not that many on the market. So I guess they could clean it out and make it, not saying pristine, but kind of pristine, much faster, because there were not so many distractors. But right now on the market is full with distractors, and
there's
new ways are coming up how to do it, and
constantly.
everybody wants to, like you said, it adopt it, but then you need to rethink your whole thought process and then start rebuilding it. If there would be just like a couple companies dealing with it, probably the whole hype would have been gone already, and then we would be in a stable state. Still not perfect, as we know, because of everything that we said with the data, but it would be much more stable than what it is right now.
But I guess it all goes back like a bit, the Bitcoin hype and so on.
Yeah.
I mean, it also got a bit hit by the infrastructure. So what I'm thinking is that you can come up with a new company every week, but you cannot really just build the infrastructure behind it, because that has to be fronted with serious bucks, right? And most of these companies doesn't have $1 billion to invest into
No.
infrastructure that will give you some return in 10 years or so. So they rely on the big ones who will provide them the infrastructure, sell them the time or the resources on an hour cost. And then if you think about it, how the memory prices are hiking now, and all the infrastructure, we are running out of resources, basically, because the cat videos and TikTok shorts and whatnot are burning up all the SSDs, the memory, the bandwidth, everything. Then that will have to peak at some point when the prices are going to go up, and then you won't really have the free resources to just make up shit. So you will have, once again, you will have to have a serious idea and a plan, and you cannot wipe code your way out of every corner and then restart a new company if you fail, because you have to put some money in it. You have to put your money where your mouth is, and then probably it will circle back and something else will pop up.
So I'm circling back to Rory's point, right? The opportunity mindset from that podcast. It feels on the consumer side. It feels like there's a lot of solutions looking for a problem to solve. I don't know. Is that the right approach? Should you create a solution for everything and then try to find a problem to solve? Or from the consumer side, should you get your house in order, get your data, your processes, everything documented so you understand what you're doing right, what you're doing wrong, and then look to see if you have the solution already, or do you need to invest in one of those solutions that have been provided and spend your money that way?
Yeah,
Seems like
that's
a
what,
more logical approach, right?
yeah, that's what I was kind of referring to as well when I said that now there are too many cooks in the kitchen,
Yeah.
basically.
Yeah, but nowadays it's free to be a cook. If you think about it,
For the time being.
all those layoffs that happened recently, those are
Yes, are
the
forcing.
people who are substituting for those who are coming up and they think that they will be the new Jeff Bezos and Elon Musks and everyone in their garage, and they are using free resources that are provided on the cost of people being laid off who actually did some work.
Or you look at like Microsoft. How many people? I don't know how many people Microsoft laid off in the current year or last year. Laid off a lot, and a lot of these companies do this so they can allocate money for AI investment. Well, even now they're looking at, I'm not getting any, there's no return. So now I either have to quietly hire these people back. How can I do it cost effectively? I can offshore it. I can offer the people I let go their job back at a lower rate. All these things that have changed to make up for the belief I was going to achieve success by spending all this money on AI. Microsoft, in the recent announcement from them, and I don't have the details to quote specifically the sources, but reducing their use of Anthropic's Claude, and I assume Claude Code specifically for Microsoft, because the everything's tokenized, and the cost in tokens spent is so astronomically high. They're now saying, I can't keep this spend rate up for the next 6 months. I've already spent my budget for the first 6 months or plus. The spend rate, it doesn't make sense. So you have a small correction that happens. Does it stick? That's what I hope happens. It sticks and people come to their senses and say, human capital is the most valuable asset I have. I'm going to stop laying people off with the perception that I can use AI to replace them, because you can't. You can't replace a person with AI.
But that requires, Troy, one critical element from leadership to recognize it and be able to, or willing to openly admit that, hey, I was wrong.
I think they can recognize it, but what you just said, openly admit that they were wrong, because it then puts them at risk. Well, the hell.
Yeah, but if you think about it, these CEOs are hovering around all the time. They're not staying with a company for 50 years.
Traditionally, you're correct, but look how long Nadal's been with Microsoft forever. Gosh, it's got to be almost 10 years at least.
Yeah, but that's a dinosaur. I mean, you can't really, make a statement of a whole industry about, because they are still unique.
But if you think about it, even if let's say a CEO is staying for 4 years, right, or 5 years, let's just set that period of time. Even if the CEO is just staying for 4 or 5 years, he or she made a decision 3 years ago, right? Still have a year to fix it, and you can pick any dates. But the point is, as long as they are there and they are there long enough to make that decision, they can reverse that decision as well.
Yeah, but then they probably will lose
or change the CEO and the new one has to. But the trust already is. I think the trust already is gone in many occasions because of those decisions that we made.
I think it's going to be the rotation of CEOs that will solve it. And it will solve in one company, then the next one. Then
accepting that Nadal is he's an exception, right? Because Microsoft's just Microsoft. You're right, and it's always been, the SLT has always had a lifespan 1 to 3 years. they've cycled through and they cycle through, and everybody comes in with their own ideas. So everything that the previous CEO did gets undone by the next CEO.
Yeah.
Very rarely do they keep stuff. Is that change what's going to facilitate the move forward to smarter thinking about how do I use what do I invest in from artificial intelligence, and how do I keep my people engaged? And you have a great story about your recent experiences have been very positive from that change of leadership has resulted in some very beneficial outcomes for you. I had a great experience at a previous employer. It was fantastic. Even though it eliminated my job, the leadership change made a world of difference. Will they do those kinds of things with AI?
You don't know.
I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah.
You see, I think AI came or AI is so hyped because they expect a short return
Yeah, and
or
it
a
goes back to
faster return.
that goes back to Rory's comment, the destruction of value. You're doing these things, focus on the short term, and the long term be damned. Your
Yeah.
intellectual capital be damned. Who cares?
And then here comes the other issue that when you hiring, right? That's what we talked about earlier before the podcast. That if you're having everyone making or producing their CVs with the same AI technology or different AI technologies, but basically it's all AI assisted. You have to use AI because otherwise you're falling behind. But then it will be all generic, very
Yeah, so generic you can't
closely
distinguish
aligned.
them.
Yeah,
Yeah.
for the same
Be the
job,
same.
you probably will have the same bullet points for everyone. Maybe a couple of words different, but generic CVs coming in, 150 people, and then AI is sorting them out, and based on what? Because they are not going to have a HR representative going through 400 CVs, right? It's going to be crawled by AI. The AI will sort it somehow. Who knows how? Roll a dice, right? And then it will come back with 10 people. Probably it will be looked at by an intern who doesn't know shit about it, and then it will end up with the most sympathetic people for that person.
Yeah. And it's we're working against ourselves, right? We've talked about this before as well. So a job gets posted 2 hours later on LinkedIn, you see 100 plus applicants already in there. How in the world did this job generate 100 plus applicants? Well, there's countless services out there that use AI to automatically get you submitted for a job over and over again, and then you become, as the legitimate candidate you feel you are, lost in the sea of noise.
And how many
It just-
You
people
have
are
to know
not
somebody there, right? Even when you do know
Yeah.
somebody at the company, there's no guarantee you're going to get very far.
And there was this.
The uniqueness
sorry.
is what is getting lost in this
Yeah.
whole
Yeah,
whole
that's
the
story.
original.
And
Yeah, I
if
agree.
back to what you said, Lavi, it's if AI is writing everybody's resume, like you said, it's gonna sound really similar to each other. And then if I go there, for example, and I submit mine, which has not been written by AI, but it's not even getting selected in the 150
Yeah, because it doesn't have the bullet points
because it
that
doesn't
is
have
looking for to select you.
Yeah, there's a lot
exactly.
of challenges, and I still believe networking and knowing somebody at the company you want to
That
work
helps
for
enough.
is the strongest
That helps.
path. It helps. It used to be I almost felt like it was a guarantee you would get at least an interview. It gets you that foot in the door. Today, it may not even get you the interview.
No,
Yeah,
That's
but
It's a
the problem.
challenge.
if you I maybe I sent you that article that 80% of the jobs that are on the market are not really, there's no position behind them, job
Yeah.
postings,
Yeah,
because companies are fishing or they're trying to gauge
Testing the waters.
gauge the financial aspect of hiring new people. And then there's another thing that you Troy said, that there are a lot of services that they are automatically searching and applying for you on your behalf for positions that you find interesting or you select that you are interested in. And maybe you are not even looking for a job. Maybe you're just fishing as a employee to to see if I can find a better place. But then you push out somebody else who's actually in need of a job because they're looking for it for 6 months or 1 year already and got the experiences. But because there's so many people on the market, there's so many people who are actually looking for jobs, but there are a lot of people who are on the market just for fun. because they have
And the
this
flip
service.
side of
Why not
it
use it?
is that the hiring managers, that's what I'm seeing, like we talked about it, Troy, before earlier today, that they don't seem to be knowing what they really want. It's either that or they are looking for a unicorn.
Well, they're
some
not
of these
Even if
job
you're
qualified, right?
descriptions, some of
Yeah.
these job descriptions are phenomenal, right? You're looking at the combination of 3 or more roles, and even with my experience, I don't feel confident in applying for this because I'm not 100% sure what sells.
And then when you got the job, it turns out that none of those things
None of
are
it.
actually
Yeah,
matter.
right.
or it's something completely different than what's in the job description.
And
It can happen as well.
that's also killing, because someone who wants to retain some sort of expertise, and if you don't want them to use it in their work, then they will say that, okay, but I'm an Oracle specialist. Why would I not use that if I'm that if I want to keep current knowledge about that, and if I'm not in that field anymore because I'm solving I don't know, login issues, then I'm going to leave, because even though I got my money, but I will lose all those skills that I built up for years, and then I just won't be able to find a place next time, or won't be in the current or the mainstream anymore. So
It has a
yeah,
ripple
it's
effect.
just that's an HR issue. I think that's
Definitely. A great discussion, you guys. I was looking at the amount of time. This is a long podcast for us.
why. Yeah.
Any closing thoughts other than my opening thoughts? I mean, it is Indianapolis 500 about to start. I know you may have seen me pick up my phone, but it's so I could see where we are in the pre-race. We got the Canadian Grand Prix for F1 later, and then of course the Coca-Cola 600.
I can tell you what happened
Full
so
day,
far
man.
in NASCAR.
In NASCAR, okay, that's the last race of the day. I know
That's
what
why
you're
you're gonna fall
gesturing
asleep on
for.
that, Troy.
I know what you're gesturing for, but no, it'll be much better than that.
Yeah,
That's the
just kidding.
closing comment, I guess.
I'm not sure you were leaning the right way though, Levy. I think
I'll
you
just
need to
flip
lean.
my view. Don't worry.
Okay, well, that's a good close. Good discussion. It was great to meet.
Good to
Thank
be
you very
here
much,
as always.
and hey,
Okay,
have a great week ahead.
Yeah, yeah.
you as well.
The long
You too.
weekend for all of us. Yay!
Yay, one more day.
Yep.
Sounds good. Talk to you soon.
Talk to you. Bye bye.
Talk to you.